You only get these movies after one or two monsters, and Hollywood is not smart, and they're just like, he make big movie, he make second big movie, make big movie now, make third big movie now, and it's just like. It's like details, they don't even matter. Just make the big movie again. Third time.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
Oh! Motherfucking orange peel beef over here.
Peel beef.
It's 1 fucking hour time. Of course, the show where we talk about one goddamn movie, and we have just 1 fucking hour to do it. I'm Evan Husney, everybody. And to my left, we got Big T, Tom Fitzgerald. What's going on, T?
Buy Hawk to a coin.
Oh, God.
Get it while you can.
Jesus.
Sorry, I just got to pay my endorsers. Got to do some business.
Yes, there you go. And all the way to the right, we got, as always, here with us, Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, what's going on, man?
What's up? I think we'll be able to date this episode by the very day now because of that reference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The hard date stamp.
Yeah, make sure to get your Hawk to a coin. So
I thought we agreed this would be a Hawk to a freeze.
Yeah, I know. It probably should.
I never signed anything.
Yeah. All right. And apologies to our guest here that's his lead-in. But we have here finally on the show after it took 120 plus episodes to get him here, but he's here. Our good friend from Austin, Texas, Bryan Connolly. Bryan, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
That's right. The Vulcan of video himself.
Yes.
Thank you. I brought my Crystal Skull vodka that I'm drinking here for Dan Aykroyd. And
yeah.
It was a gift. It was a gift to me. I was so excited. It's good.
It is good. Yeah. That's great. I'm glad you brought that. They're sponsoring tonight's episode, of course, which is going to be episode 122 of the show. We're doing 1941 as our first Spielberg film. Very excited about that.
Perversely.
The first
Spielberg
we did Jaws. We did we did
a ride along with Jaws.
That was a Patreon exclusive, but go on.
Oh,
right.
okay.
And we're doing this, it's the time of D-Day anniversary.
That's right. Yes.
It's not
No, it's not
random.
D-Day. It's Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor is the...
Christ, you're right.
Yeah, right.
By the time this comes out, it might be D-Day, though.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
It's also like this.
I got to go back to school. Yes.
Exactly.
Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
So what better film, how befitting, 1941.
That's right. So, very excited to get into all of that, of course. But first, before we get into that, we got to give a quick shout out to the 1 fucking hour Patreon. Patreon.com/1 fucking hour is where you can sign up to get access to all of our bonus episodes. It's just $5 a month. Bryan, you up on the Patreon yet? We got to get you up there.
Yeah, we got to juice him in.
Yeah, we're going to juice you into that. It's the Patreon. It's $5 a month. You get all of our bonus apps, audio commentary tracks like Jaws. We have done an audio commentary track to Jaws. It's up there. But you also get 24-hour, 36-hour early access to all of our episodes. That's worth it, I think, right there. And if you like to keep all your shit up on YouTube, you could either sign up on the Patreon or go to our membership, our homepage on YouTube, find the join button, click the join button. Same price, $5 a month, same perks, same benefits. It supports the show. It's the best way to do so, and we appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who signed up thus far and become a moment of the channel. Also, we should shout out that probably by the time you're hearing this or shortly thereafter you're hearing this, we'll have our brand new bonus episode up there, which is going to be hot off the heels of our recent Help episode that we did on the Beatles. We're going to be doing a Beatles show and tell bonus episode that's only going to be available up on the Patreon, or if you're a moment of the YouTube channel, we're going to be digging
fun.
Rare clips, cool
deep cuts,
audio, crazy hits. It's going to be great. right?
A couple physical objects, maybe.
Yes, of course. So if you want to
We'll
see
dig into deep to the Paul is dead stuff. Right?
Paul is dead, all that's going to happen up on the One Fucking Hour Patreon, or if you're a Moman of the YouTube channel. So, all right, guys. Thank you for the support and everybody who signed up thus far. All right, Joel.
Peace and love.
Yeah. All right. So I'm excited, guys, for us to get into this and for Bryan, for you to be here and, to get into this wacky ass movie.
This is his pick. This is our guest's pick, is it?
We should say
brought
that.
this to us.
That's right. We should say that. Bryan, we reached out to you. We're like, you get to pick anything you want. It's pretty much like if you're a first timer on the show, we're going to give you that carte blanche.
Thank you.
Sort of pick. And you picked this movie, which we'll get into why. But I also wanted to shout out one more thing about you, that just for the listeners, you co-authored this awesome fucking book that we have to shout out on the channel. It is, I got my copy here, Destroy All Movies. Tom, show yours. There you go.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of the most demented film reference books on the market. Or I guess it's not on the market. It's out of print now. You're going to be paying hundreds of dollars for this shit if you want a copy. But what's the premise of this, Bryan? Because it's an incredible premise.
So, a long time ago, Zach Carlson and I decided to document every punk that was ever in a movie ever, and we thought it'd be really easy. And we're like, "There's like 100, right? There's Star Trek 4, there's Suburbia,
Right.
And then we were like, well, no, we got to do like all of them, even if they're in the background of like Big Business or something. You got to put that in the movie." Right. And so we just went through every movie ever made by the time punk was invented. And we cut off at the 20th century.
Of course.
So we're like 75, 76 to 99. What do you got, Hollywood in the world? And so I would just take garbage bags of movies from the video store at the time with Scarecrow Video in Seattle. Still around.
Shout
still
out.
great.
Shout out.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just fast forward through hundreds of movies every week, looking for punks, just playing
you're
Waldo
like,
with mohawks
hey,
and stuff.
there's a mohawk.
Yeah, right.
And then we just made this book.
Yeah, so this book
Amazing.
is a guide to all punks ever, and if a punk is seen on screen in a movie, it's referenced in this book.
Like behind Tom Hanks waiting at the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
In Punchline.
Isn't there that Richard Pryor movie where it's like you needed like the widescreen,
Brewster's Millions. Yeah,
Brewster's Millions.
He's in the far corner, and on the VHS you don't see the punks.
You have to have the widescreen
pan and stand out.
Yeah.
Yep.
One quick question, just to illustrate the volume and the depth of this book's research. What would you say is the most unpunk film with a punk in this book, or one of them?
Oh my god!
Un-punk.
That's hard.
Like Tom Hanks, like I said, like anything there.
Oh, gosh,
that type of thing, mainstream. When Harry Met Sally, is there a mohawk? In
yeah.
No, I'm trying to think of.
It's probably been a few years.
Most of the movies in the movie are not very punk.
Right, it's true. It's not, to be clear, this is not a book about punk films. Right. Okay,
because a lot of times they're like a punchline in a film.
They're a background, set dressing,
background, like we're saying.
Yeah, set dressing, and then you guys write like a full write up about that film, and so it's interesting.
Well, let's leave it at this.
Yeah.
I know it's in here. I haven't even found it yet, but you guys did Hannah and her sisters.
Okay, there you go.
So that's maybe it's that.
Okay.
Maybe that's there's a part where Woody Allen goes to a punk show and he can't stand the music.
That's not very punk.
It's not.
Which is always hilarious to me. Hannah and her sisters, he goes on a date to a quote unquote punk club, and the way the character and Woody Allen, the creator of the film, he depicts. Or he's depicting his reaction to punk rock, which is basically he's seeing G.G. Allen on stage. Yeah, he's like, I can't. But they're going to take hostages. They're going to kill us. And it's like some middle of the road kind of like hard rock AOR band. Like, I don't want to go to your school.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh my God, let's get out of here. Where are the exits? So Hannah and her sisters in the book. Great book.
There's a Western with a punk in it, and I forget I think it's called Sundown or something. There's a punk bat.
Oh, what?
It's like a vampire Western. That's not very punk, I guess.
That's amazing. So Bryan is known, of course, for Destroy All Movies. Check it out if you haven't, or drop money on it because there's only one printing of it, and it's an incredible book. Also, Bryan is known for being you managed Vulcan Video forever. You were the man of Vulcan Video.
Yeah.
You were on the Jimmy Kimmel show for your time at Vulcan Video, which is amazing.
In Austin, Texas.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yep.
So legendary, in the world of Austin film is Bryan Connolly, and we're stoked to have you here and to get into this crazy pick, and we're going to get to why the hell we're doing this in a second here, but I'm going to start the clock first because I want that under the clock. Okay, so
nerve-wracking.
it is.
It's awful.
Get ready for this dumb concept of our show. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right. First, I'm going to read a just little synopsis action here on 1941. Okay, Steven Spielberg's 1941. Here we go. Only 6 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the news that the Japanese are about to attack sunny California spreads like wildfire. Indeed, amid rampant paranoia, a Japanese submarine surfaces off the Californian coast, commanded by ambitious Commander Akira Mitamura, played by Toshihiro Mifune from the Kurosawa films, who wants to destroy the illustrious symbol of America, Hollywood, of course. Thus, the residents of California descend into a wild panic, and chief among them are Wild Bill Kelso, played by John Belushi, who is a crazed National Guard pilot. You have Sergeant Frank Tree, played by Dan Aykroyd, a patriotic, straight-laced tank crew commander. Ward Douglas, played by Ned Beatty, a civilian willing to help the American war effort at any cost. And Major General Joseph W. Stilwell, who's a real-life person, played by Robert Stack, who tries his hardest to maintain sanity amid the chaos. So this is the film.
A lot of other actors.
Yeah, and like 800,000 other ensemble bit parts that I'm sure.
Spurburgers.
Mickey Rourke.
That's right. It's Mickey Rourke's first film, I think, right?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Jacques Renault from Twin Peaks is in it.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah, Christopher Lee. Yeah.
James Caan is in it with out speaking for 2 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
There's
amazing.
a guy Cookie from Mulholland Drive who's like, I'm
Fucking
still staying at
Cookie.
Cookie's house downtown.
Right, exactly. So a lot of people in this flick, but I wanted to ask Bryan now to put you formally on the spot. Why are we doing this today?
Well, this is a movie that I've defended my whole life.
Ooh.
I'm a lifelong fan of this film since I was a kid. I like movies where lots of things break, and maybe it's not necessarily going for the jokes in the right way, but like I love It's a Mad World, which a lot of people don't think is funny.
Right.
And I love Hell's a Poppin', which I feel this movie is very inspired by. Just like
Totally.
loud, break everything, tear everything down sort of movies. And the fact that this is a big budget follow-up to Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Wild.
It's a big swing. It's just because it's just a movie of dumb jokes. It could have meant something. It could have been about something important, as Spielberg has done after this.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just a yuck fest. And I'm also fascinated by it because I feel it's part of that kind of death of the 70s. It's kind of talked about in that group of like Heaven's Gate and Sorcerer and New York.
Yep.
But all those movies
love those here,
found
by the way.
love now. People love those movies now. This one is the only one that doesn't get love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like people still are like, no, like that's that dumb shit.
Yes. And ironically, it wasn't actually a box office flop.
No,
Right.
it made its money back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just was soft compared to the Jaws and Close Encounters.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I just feel like, I don't know, it's time for maybe people to look at this movie again.
Well, just off of one thing that you said there about just how you like films that just have this general, destruction, per minute, I guess, if you want to say, where things just go off the rails. I was watching an interview with Spielberg going into this, and he was sort of talking about John Milius is known for being someone who's, he's a big part of this project. He's a producer. And John Milius is known for kind of larger than life, being, having a wild hair, being a kind of crazy personality, and then you have the, Bob Zemeckis and everything, he likes zany shit, so, but I think this was Spielberg's opportunity to be like, guys, I got a wild hair too, and it really seemed like, or this is a quote from him in the interview. To him, the reason why he did this movie, quote, it seemed like a great opportunity to break a lot of furniture and see a lot of glass shattering. That is what he said. That's why he did this movie. And
go ahead. I must interject just right here at this point. We're talking like, I don't know who said it of the new cinema class, that group, but I think it was De Palma. But when they heard that he was making 1941 and that it was a comedy, the quote was something like, but Steven's not funny.
Yeah, right.
You know, like he was, he was a mate of all those guys. Like maybe he's Scorsese, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And it was just like, wait, it was like they couldn't believe it. Like why is Spielberg even trying? Because he's not funny. He doesn't have a funny bone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So,
and then famously, Stanley Kubrick would say, he should have marketed it like a drama, because I didn't find it funny. But that's weird to me because
his quote was, "It's great, but it's not funny."
Oh yeah, right, right. But obviously, there's a lot of very overt, comedy, zany set pieces, which I'm sure we'll get into.
And I'd like to defend it in that regard later on. I think it's more complicated than that.
Sure.
I think it's maybe a different kind of funny. And I think, Brian, you were kind of alluding to that. There's a different style, that really hardcore Mad World thing definitely comes to mind.
Totally.
That's distinct from normal film funny. It's a type of film comedy, and I think that it kind of gets away with it. So
sure.
It does have a lot of strengths too. I mean, the cinematography is great.
Sure.
Like it doesn't feel cheap at all. You can feel how big the budget is. The performances are pretty good. The everything's blocked out well. It moves. The camera's like moving and flowing. It has a dynamic quality to it. But yeah, I guess those strengths don't outweigh its unfunniness, I think.
Marcus's take. No, I'm just kidding. So
I think it's a matter of expectations. Maybe is what I've been getting at.
It is, and for me, I had actually never sat through the whole thing. I had seen pieces over the years, or or maybe attempted to watch it at other points. But this is my first time where I'm watching 1941 for this purpose. And it is wild in how it sits in his filmography, and it's probably the least talked about today Spielberg film, I would say. It's gotta be, but it's very interesting. But I have to say real quick, maybe this will kind of kick off us getting into the film. But again, that same Spielberg interview, it's this vintage 1996 Laserdisc special feature of him talking about the film, and here's what he's equating it to in the modern era. I thought we would give the listeners a little taste of this. So here's Spielberg on 1941, looking back at it in 1996.
And in fact, I think looking back on the movie, one of the most enjoyable things about the film for me is that the film is pretty much no different than playing Doom 2 or on your computer today. It really is a blast in the face.
That's right. 1941, it's like playing Doom 2. So, gotta love that. I thought that was
the same, honestly.
Yeah, did you?
It's the first thing that came to my mind.
Doom 2.
Absolutely.
Gotta love it. So, but yeah, and then Pauline Kael referred to this movie famously, saying that watching it was like having your head stuck in a pinball machine for 2 hours, which I love.
Ooh, interesting. Well, if you guys don't mind, just before the film proper, I just want to set up the place it is in.
Sure.
The time when it drops, it's 1979, like comedy in the late 70s. So what do we got? Now, you had sort of a sleeper, Animal House. And now Animal House, of course, is still a much quoted monster. Huge hit. It's an iconic thing.
Yeah.
And then let's just go through the line. So then then the next year is this, okay, and then there's the year after that, 1980. You've got the Blues Brothers, John Landis coming back from Animal House, and I feel there's more similarity maybe than any other film with 1941 is the Blues Brothers.
Interesting, yeah.
And that's not a compliment. I mean, they're both kind of turgid in a weird way, and there's a lot going on, but it's does it add to funny? It's an open question. But also in 1980, almost done here, in 1980 was the big sleeper, which was Airplane, which just took fucking off. And it's still quoted constantly. There's a joke, 2 jokes every minute. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. No one saw it coming. And it really just did the thing where it delivered the laughs. Like if we're talking about strictly speaking, like this will make me laugh and have this reflexive action of laughing, that succeeded even more than Animal House, just constantly. So I think when you compare it, it's like, there's a film 1979. It's a comedy. It's going to play theaters. People did get excited. I was a child. Everybody's excited. On like Friday night, all the kids at school were like, or Friday, were like, oh, we're going to see 1941 this weekend. Oh, it was a lot of hype. It was all over the place. I had the magazine because we were all into Jaws and Close Encounters. So we're like, oh, that director guy's making a comedy. Oh, boy. A lot of hype. And then seriously, it was never mentioned again in the playground. Like kids did not talk. It was just like they just quietly okay, yeah, right. Yeah, no, I saw it. Change the subject. So anyway, what I'm saying is, my whole big point here is just going with the audience and the response. There's things that resonated on a pure gut level, almost the id brain of comedy, which was Airplane and Caddyshack in 1980. But it's just like this film, if anything you do like about it, that's not its strong suit. And we can talk about maybe I have some notes for Steven actually. We'll get into later, but I think in a way, like if we maybe reduce the expectation of funny like Airplane and just talk about the film, a lot of it does work on its own terms.
Yeah,
I think that's what I was thinking when I was watching it again. Like, is this working on its own terms? And I think he wanted it to have more belly laughs. Airplane belly laughs. It does not succeed there, but there's a lot where it does succeed in what he's trying to do. It's also nostalgia porn because these fucking baby boomers can't get enough of the goddamn mid-century. Yeah, and I think it's a bullseye on nostalgia porn too. So
well, yeah, and I do think, and I want to hear from you too, Brian. But I also think it's like it is kind of I think it really was an excuse to make this. I don't give a fuck. I can do whatever I want. We're gonna make this big, crazy, epic, tear it all
Evan, you're
down.
saying, yeah, it's the Magnolia syndrome.
Exactly. We talked about this before, which is on the show. Everybody's probably heard it. You there's the Magnolia principle. You make Boogie Nights. You have your smaller film. If you want to call Close Encounters a smaller film, but Jaws is probably more apt. And it's like you make this film, becomes a big hit. Now you can do blank check time. You can do whatever you want just to kind of prove you can do whatever you want.
No one will say no.
No one's saying no. And of course, people did say no to this film. Studios did say no to this film. But as soon as Steven kind of came aboard, it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll do it then, So
it's the golden child.
Right. So this is one of those fuck you movies in a lot of way where I can do whatever I want. And I think it was a big excuse for him to do that. And I think the creative people involved too, it was interesting to him. Bob Gale, Bob Zemeckis, those two guys, I think appealed to Spielberg and he saw them as talents and wanted to see what was going on with those two guys. I mean, Brian, what do you think of that? Does that track with what you believe?
Yeah, I feel like he was ready to let loose. He made these kind of important movies. Like Close Encounters is a movie that was very close to him. It was one of the few movies he wrote.
True.
Yeah. And it's a very powerful, moving human story, but with his alien shit in it. And then he's like, I need to just let loose. I need to relax, but I'm not going to just phone in some bullshit.
Right.
I'm going to make a crazy comedy that may not be funny, but I'm going to fill it with all these amazing special effects, all these this amazing cinematography, these amazing sequences. We're going to get every famous comedian alive right now and Oscar-nominated actors. Just put it all, cram it all in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fan of a big swing movie. I'm a big fan of movies where they're like, let's just burn it down. Who cares?
Balls to the wall.
This is the last time they'll ever make a movie.
Yeah, right.
This
is your one chance after making two huge films.
You're never going to be able to do this again after this.
And they all kind of feel like this. They all kind of feel like this sort of like the dam has burst, the levees broke.
Right.
And it's just shit. It's just people. It does feel kind of like cocaine. Everyone's just like,
it does.
And this today and this thing. And sometimes those kind of movies work, like Apocalypse Now. It's the same year, also John Milius helped with that a bit.
Yep.
So that movie worked. That movie clicked. But if it failed, that movie would be talked about like this. Like, that was a crazy movie with all these ideas. And
if it was a comedy. Right?
Yeah, if it was a comedy. Yeah, right.
It's like this movie, I think it's just... Like it's the same problem with It's a Mad World. Like Stanley Kramer wasn't known for making comedies. He did what, Judgment at Nuremberg before that or something?
Right.
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah.
you just putting funny people in a thing doesn't make it funny.
No.
You actually have to have it be funny.
Yeah.
There's
But
that
I
sort of
kinda-
unwritten
but-
rule about comedy films too. Like you're supposed to shoot them very flatly, right? Like you're not supposed to inject a lot of style to like a comedic
right.
film. You look back at most comedy films are just shot like a sketch or something. That's like Airplane is a great contrast because it's shot so flat. You know?
Yeah.
And if you add all this stylistic, stuff, people miss the joke or it doesn't land or whatever. That's why comedy.
Yeah. Well, one thing Bob Odenkirk always says that he had experience with Saturday Night Live. He was a writer and did some performing in it in the early 90s, late 80s. And he said, they spend so much time on the goddamn the living room. You know what I mean? like great, you really dialed in a middle American living room,
Yeah.
stairwell, and the paintings, the framed paintings, and he said, fuck all that shit, because he said when Mr. Show happened, he said this was inspired by Monty Python. He said, with our sets, when someone slams the door and leaves the room, the wall shakes a little.
Yeah. There you go.
He says that's really important for comedy.
Yeah, right.
Because it has to just feel like, and Airplane, like you're saying, Marcus, is a perfect example where it's shoddy. You know what I mean? But I had another thought. This is one of my big notes for Steven Spielberg. I want to run
here
this
we
by
go.
you guys.
Yep.
Here's what I would have done, because this is salvageable as a film. He simply could have had 4 or 5 punch-up comedy ghostwriters. And he should have cut the action by 70%, and had 30% of the film. Well, I'll get granular just for a second. Compare it to Animal House. I'm thinking about this a lot. So Animal House, one scene. I'll just talk about one scene where they try to kidnap the horse in Animal.
I knew you were going to. I knew you were going to bring that
Well,
up.
I know, yeah, of course. No, but beyond all that, but I'm saying it's a very simple scene. It's very quiet. It's just a couple people and a horse, and it's fucking hilarious. And it's a deep cut, and everybody knows it. But it's just there's nothing, like you're saying, Marcus. It's like there's nothing but the joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just the circumstance is funny, and then the thing that makes or breaks it is not incredible editing or cinematography or zoom lenses, but it's actually timing, and it becomes almost like fucking vaudeville and theater. Belushi has to be just right with the other guy, and they have to go crazy and react when the sight gag and the audio gag of the horse getting a heart attack, and it's the timing. It's like millisecond timing. This film, 1941, timing on a millisecond level is just obliterated. It's not really possible. But in his defense, he has good visual gags. One positive example of how he could have made this work if he just calmed down a little bit is that great moment where there's the big fight, one of the many big fights outside. Everybody's going crazy. And the really cute girl is the other side of, what's his name? The gross guy who's pursuing the cute girl.
Treat Williams.
Treat Williams.
Treat Williams is there she is, the blonde girl. And then a crowd goes by the blonde girl between them.
Yep.
And then suddenly it's Wendy Spurberg, whatever her name is. And so that's really beautifully executed,
Right.
visual comedy, silent movie. It's like silent movie style, or old good Tashlin, Jerry Lewis, and he does that a lot. There's a bunch of stuff like that. It's just, I think if he let that breathe a little bit more, and allow the comic timing of the script, and to get and funnier punchlines, because memorable punchlines could save even an epic, huge catastrophe of noise and busyness. If you have, there's no quotable lines. They needed punch-up guys.
Well, I don't know if that, Brian, corroborate this, but I don't know if that was necessarily the type of thing that even drove him to this. To me, it felt like when we should get in just a little bit of the backstory because it is interesting. But when Spielberg first heard about this project, he heard about the giant set pieces. And I think those set pieces is what really intrigued him about tackling this film. The idea that there was going to be a Japanese sub off of the coast of California, and it was going to attack this Ferris wheel, and there was going to be a big scene of a Ferris wheel rolling down this dock, and that's the part that when he got the script, he looked at first and was like, oh my God, it really is in here, and I get to do something like that, and that was very exciting to him. And you see, that amazing set piece too when John Belushi's airplane is, following, the other guy from Animal House who's having sex with, Brian De Palma's wife in the plane, and that whole like barrel rolling through, Los Angeles. I'm sure it was like done with miniatures and stuff. That's the type of thing I think that he's really excited about.
It does. It feels like this is a Spielberg version of a comedy, and I would argue that. I feel like what he learned from this, he perfected with his next movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, because that movie is also really just a set piece.
True.
Like all these set pieces,
like
and it's really funny.
to that,
The comedy, the comedies really works in that, and the line.
And I bet he
really
had punch up. I bet there was a punch up person who helped him with like just shoot the guy with the whip. Like that is that's memorable.
That's a great gag.
Yeah, that's a great gag. But I'm sure
George Lucas
they imported somebody. Because that looks like he didn't have the whip. Because I was thinking, like, what is the humor style of Spielberg? It wouldn't be like that whip line in Raiders. But I was thinking it's like the toilet humor of Slim Pickens.
Oh, dude, dude,
that's like Mexican like soap opera comedy.
Dude.
Wait,
bad, it's
when I was a kid, I was like, this is beneath me.
Just the fact that there's a movie with Toshiro Mifune,
I'm like
and Slim Pickens. It's crazy.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's crazy that like all these seeing these actors together in a movie like that kind of blows my mind. It's like it's not funny necessarily all the time, but like Slim Pickens, Christopher Lee, Toshiro Mifune together,
unreal,
trying to do a joke.
It's AI, it's an AI fucking movie in some ways. It's crazy, but yeah, no, I totally know what you all are saying, and I think it's just before we get into some of the set pieces, because I do want to talk about them because there's a lot of crazy ones. Let's just set up the people with, if they've never seen this movie, just how this fucking thing came together, because it is interesting, and I'll be brief. But basically, Bob Zemeckis, right, Brian, and Bob Gale wrote this script. This was their idea, that it was sort of based on the hysteria from the home front, or hysteria on the home front during World War II, and sort of this making a wonderfully absurd sort of satire almost of based in real historical events, and that could be sort of an interesting movie, because there is a real story from February of 1942 where a certain part of Los Angeles thought that there was an air raid and there was going to be an actual invasion by the Japanese. So
Battle of Los Angeles, like the Rage Against the Machine album.
Booyah! So, they actually blacked out parts of the city for 6 hours in this incident. So, and thousands of rounds of ammo were fired at nothing in the sky. So Bob and Bob thought this would be a great little, sort of, which I can see. I can actually see that being a great setting.
Well, didn't it start as the intention was as a drama? I think that's where Milius was early on this basic story, and they were going to frame this as an interesting drama. And I could see it being very cool. That. I read that. I did read that.
Okay.
I thought he was saying that he wanted to do a drama about General Stillwell.
That's what I heard. Yeah, so that's what Milius brought to it. He's the World War II buff, and he's you could totally see a guy like that being all interested in generals, different generals, and he was interested in General Stillwell, and so he sort of thought that let's put him in this movie, and then of course John Milius famously wanted to call this film the night the Japs attacked. That was the title that he had for this film that definitely wasn't going to work with Steven attached to it. And there's a lot of that stuff they had to sort of scale back. But this was the idea, and they got the film together, and based on that, there was a real Japanese submarine that also was found off the coast of Santa Barbara, and there was real panic up and down the coast, following that. There is a real story of a guy in Maine who got an anti-aircraft gun put in his backyard, during the war. So, and of course,
also brought in the Zoot Suit Riot. Sorry,
that's right.
Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
Ooh, love them too. But that's the thing. It's like. So it's like taking all these real world things, but making it more absurd. Of course, with the anti-aircraft gun guy, it's like, let's put it in his living room. And then it becomes, sort of this satirical, absurd, outrageous thing. And I can totally see why this movie was also a hit with Europeans, guys. Europeans loved this film. And I can see that. where it's sort of like, you know, if you're not from America, you would kind of read this as some big parody of, you know, that sort of, American machismo and the war.
Big crazy American movie.
Well, that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess John Wayne was very offended by the script. He was offered the script, and he was like, "What is this anti-American bullshit? I would not do this. Like, why are you making this movie, Steve?"
He told Steve like that war was too important to make fun of.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's I think one way of interpreting it. No, but that is one way of interpreting it. That it is sort of mocking the absurdity of our sort of outlook and stuff during the war and our warmongering this and that. I could totally see that. So
could you imagine in 10 years someone making this movie about 9/11? Like, because that's basically what this is. Like in 10 years being like, what if another town, they think planes are going to go into their building and they're running around and it's a crazy comedy.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty perverse in that way. Yeah, I mean it is. So, and then Steven gets wind of it. He hears about it, and he basically, as I mentioned, just wanted to do his Fred Durst impression, and just wanted to break stuff. So he so he got into this thing, and then the rest is history. And all the studios that had previously passed on it, now with Steven on board, were all about it. And this film,
green light time.
247 shooting days, guys. Over 1 million feet of footage.
It seemed like the budget just kept steamrolling too. Like, they were supposed to be like only shoot it for like $11 million or something, but it just kept growing and growing and growing.
Well, that's the thing. It was like if you again look, it's from 1979. It's right before Heaven's Gate, like we were saying earlier, and so it's a blank check for Steven Spielberg, but they were writing blank checks, as the 70s were winding up, and this was one of the last of the blank checks, basically. So, it snuck in two ways. Like, all right, one more indulgent, bite at the apple, guys, and like, Steven, get in here, have as much apple as you want. One little tiny thing I want to mention to you guys is I've noticed that with this film and some other stuff, in the late 70s, they were trying to make like the 80s 40s happen. Like they were trying to make the 40s happen because I was listening to the Xanadu soundtrack and it's like it didn't happen, but they were kind of going like, okay, so like in the 70s we did the 50s and it was Grease, right? And it's like, but you know what, let's bring in the cutting edge, and it's like the Andrews sisters and Yabba Dabba Zoo.
And it happened a little bit with black culture, like King Creole and the Coconuts or something. Like there was a little bit of 40s in the 70s.
Manhattan Transfer and disco had like like a Lucy song and stuff like that.
Right, they kind of like, and like showbiz, like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like showbiz.
Well, Taco putting on the Ritz.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, but what's funny to me is that didn't work out. Like that's, I think, another reason that 1941 didn't capture the imagination, because it's like, hey, everybody, let's fucking do the 40s.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no thanks.
Right.
Right. So I think that's another thing, because it's coming on strong. It's one of the big 40s statements of period pieces. I mean, what else is there?
Right, because it could have been like how American Graffiti kicked off the 50s for the
right, sure. Exactly. Yeah. And then it round up with Grease,
Yeah. So I was just going to start talking about the first set piece of this film. I think we can just kind of get into the movie from here. But obviously, the movie opens with a Jaws parody, right?
Yeah.
Zoinky.
Is this the first time a director parodied his own movie?
Has to be.
Maybe it might. Yeah.
Like it's the same lady. It's the same lady.
Same woman.
Same music cues.
Same cue.
I think you're right. I think it's the first referential thing. What else? If it's not, what is?
I don't know.
What is? Yeah.
If like Godard did something like that.
And again, it's not funny, but I'm glad I saw it.
No.
Well,
then of course, yeah. So she's in the water. It's the girl, the first kill, the girl who gets killed in the opening of Jaws. And you hear the music. Same actress. And then of course she's naked, and then the Japanese sub rises and she's riding the pole, and it's very sexual, and then we see fucking Toshihiro Mifune in this movie, which is crazy that he's in this. I wonder what he thought of this, because
God, I know.
He was, I believe, in the Japanese military during the World War II.
He did not do. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but like it's not like, oh, he did. This is another American film Mifune made. Like, he didn't do this. right?
Yeah.
This is an outlier for him. Like he didn't do any.
He did
American
Hell in
movies
the
before.
Pacific, didn't he? Or help me, Brian. Didn't he do a John Huston movie or something?
He did Hell in the Pacific. That's John Borman. That was
Borman.
like 11 years before this, though.
Right,
Like, that
right.
was late 60s.
Borman, right.
It's infrequent, so
Yeah, it is very infrequent. And
for him to wind up in this slop is
He gets to
kinda
play
crazy.
opposite Christopher Lee, so they gave him something.
That's
to,
The
like,
first,
and make him
the first Spielberg Nazi, the first of many Nazis. in
Oh,
Spielberg
yeah.
movies. Christopher Lee's the
and,
first
and,
one.
and if you notice, no, I
Wow.
love that you're saying that because I noticed that, like, you know, the Japanese, they're like kind of goofy and like sort of like the crew isn't even into the war, being like, you know, Japanese fighters. But what I'm saying is like Spielberg carved out a moment where it's like you are going down Nazi. And like
Yeah.
even the Japanese are like, there goes that fucking Nazi. Like
Yeah.
everybody hates the Nazi who's dying right now.
Yeah.
And like the Japanese are let off kind of easy, is goofy, like I'm saying, but like it's like no, drowned, end the Nazi now.
Yeah,
A big,
right.
unfunny moment, you know.
I liked how he's speaking German, and then Mifune is speaking Japanese back, and they understand each other.
Yeah, that's-
I did
yeah.
like that.
yeah, totally. But I was just curious what Mifune must have thought of this movie, just serving in the military in Japan during the
wow, I
war,
did
and
not know
you
that.
know, I'm sure there's some further reading on that.
Probably just a gig, probably a big paycheck for him.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so then we're introduced to that, and then of course the concept of that. You know, they're going to bomb Hollywood. They're going to attack this American institution, and that's how they're going to, you know, destroy our spirit. And then of course there's the sight gag when they get out of, you know, when one of the Japanese soldiers gets out of the submarine, he points up at the naked woman on the crow's nest, and you know that's Hollywood, and that's kind of the satire, you know.
See, all of this could have used
Oh,
punch-up
boy.
comedy writers. No, really. Like there's no, it's arid. Like there's open spaces where you could have dropped in
Yeah.
a clever line. You know,
Right. That was really weird for me because I feel like I think I watched the extended version, so like I was having a hard time judging whether or not the pacing was working or not because I was like halfway through I realized, oh, this is like an extended version, so I wasn't sure like if how those just completely annihilate any kind of like screenplay structure. You know,
well, it's
make
how
it really
Spinal Tap,
disorienting. So
like the uncut Spinal Tap work print suddenly becomes a drama.
Oh,
almost.
yeah,
It's not bad. I'm not saying it's a bad
Yeah,
thing.
it's true.
But all the comedic editing of the regular
Right.
Spinal Tap changes.
Or like
so
you,
maybe
you always
were
point out
having
the
that
Alien
experience.
work print where it's like there's like 5 minutes spent making coffee at the beginning of the Alien
I love that.
movie. You know, it was just
I love it.
I love that.
No, but you're saying it's like a pacing thing that often happens with the extended cuts.
right. So I was having trouble judging if this was just a victim of the extended cut pacing or if like the original cut movie has all this open space where like
Right.
you see the guy watch the girl on the naked thing and cuts back to the guy, cuts back to the girl, cuts back to
Yep.
the guy, cuts back to the girl. It's just like it
Yep.
never goes anywhere. You know?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, Brian, is there a particular set piece in this film or early on in the film that you wanted to put under the microscope here?
I think the best sequence in the whole movie is the whole jitterbug sequence. I think that sequence is where the timing and everything really works.
And then it goes into the whole fight scene.
Yeah, like it's like because Spielberg can direct a really good, like that's like some really great, like it is sort of a musical moment, which he was originally planning on making this movie a musical.
Wow.
And I feel that's the one scene that's left over from that idea. That's what a lot of this movie seems like a lot of like the two Bobs, Milius and Spielberg, had a million ideas and they just put whatever worked and took out whatever and didn't think about that final rewrite to kind of smooth it out. But this is what's left over from that musical. And that sequence, I think, has a lot of good, like Rube Goldberg kind of stuff. It has like that feels like him getting close to trying to do like a Frank Tashlin thing or, just like this,
totally
or
agree.
almost like a when Blake Edwards is really hitting where it's like we're gonna do this gag and this leads to
Yes.
that and this thing and like really good strong slapstick. When the fact that it's like all to this kind of fake Benny Goodman song that John Williams wrote, a pretty catchy score. I kind of had the theme stuck in my head.
It's one of the great
after
John
watching
Williams
this.
themes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that scene is great. And that's one of the few scenes, too, that kind of pushes the plot forward a little bit about this kind of love, not a love triangle, but like this couple. And then really I'm trying to break it up. And like it feels like there's a version of this movie that's about the Bobby DeCicco character trying to get in the jitterbug contest, but then he can't because the soldiers and the thing. And that feels kind of left over from that. But that part, it really works. It kind of works.
Yeah,
in
because it ends up where he's play acting as a soldier. Yeah, he's got the uniform on. I love he said Rube Goldberg. That's in my notes because it's the Rube Goldberg set piece that I think is so great. It's after the fight. Or God damn it! It's when Treat Williams is on the ground and he's knocked out, and there's something that one little thing triggers another thing.
Yeah,
in that Rube Goldberg style, and the consequence is that the
and like the punch is in
bowl is falling
the
on
punch
him.
bowl. Yeah,
that's killer.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's very fun.
There's that
yeah.
sketch of like Hitler on the floor too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the Tojo, or it's or both
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, that I like. I also like the set piece, which I think is kind of hearkening back to the original sort of concept of the real story. Shortly after that is when obviously things start going off the rails, and it does kind of feel like a movie very much of its time. Excess, where it's basically just America having a war with itself. And that's a big theme. I mean, you hear Dan Aykroyd's character saying, Americans shouldn't be fighting Americans or whatever he says, throughout this whole film. But that's essentially what they're doing because it's kind of a false alarm. I mean, it's not really a false alarm because there's, the looming submarine out there. But this idea of them sort of, shooting up their own city to turn out the lights, to kill the the lights and to sort
there's
of.
a reference to race stuff with John Candy and that really cool actor. I remember his name. The black guy.
Not sure.
There's race back and forth stuff.
Yep.
At one point there's white face, black face, and stuff like that. So just to speak to what you're saying, there does seem like there's this sort of abortive. Topic.
There's Zoot stuff too. It's like
a real
Latino
subject
versus like
Yeah.
white.
Yeah.
the
Yes.
USO
Exactly.
guys.
Right.
It really was an opportunity. I feel like, I think in those pieces, the sort of social commentary, the satire works well, where it's sort of like, it's all the Americans sort of attacking each other and, they're fighting nothing and they're, and I think that's working. And it's almost like if the movie focused itself more around that piece and made that piece larger or something, almost like it's kind of a comedic Twilight Zone concept or something.
Instead it gets pulverized.
Right.
Yelling
it
and
almost doesn't have a main character. You mentioned that you were supposed to follow the Zoot kid mostly through it, but got lost along the way.
I wanted to.
Every other Spielberg movie, you follow like one or two people, and this one.
But it's interesting.
Latch onto.
But it is interesting that to Brian's point, that this is just like a curio because it is just insanity on top of insanity.
I can't think of another movie quite like this because, bringing up Animal House again, that movie kind of saves all the chaos for the very end when they wreck the parade. But
Yes.
could you imagine what would that
Deathmobile.
movie be like if it was just that chaos for the whole time? It wouldn't really work.
Brian, those are my notes. I said like it's as if Animal House was all the Deathmobile ending, and 10,000 marbles and all that stuff.
Brian's sign me up.
And I feel like
that big car chase too.
Spielberg might have had that in mind. Like, give me more of that ending of Animal House vibe. But again, that's the point though, because that's like 10% of Animal House.
Yeah, but I think I remember hearing, and it wasn't in the documentary, but that this movie was made on. The rumor I heard was this movie was made on a bet between John Landis and Spielberg, and they were like, "Who can make the most chaotic, expensive movie?" He did this. And John Landis is in this movie. He's the guy covered in dust, and he's and you see him in the jungle clapping, and dust comes off. And then the year after, Landis made Blues Brothers, and Spielberg is in Blues Brothers, and they're like, who can make the craziest, break everything? Let's spend all Holly's money.
And it's like
movie.
So I like that.
I do like
that.
Funny.
Be funny. Pinky swear.
And it's a tie.
No.
Can I just point out? Here's my anecdote on the excessiveness, because we could excessively talk about the excessiveness. I have two little things.
Okay.
There's a point when whatever the thing is chasing the other thing, whatever, after they leave sort of Hollywood Boulevard.
The planes, I mean?
No, sorry. So on the ground, someone's chasing the other guy. They're on the ground. They're leaving the Hollywood Boulevard set piece. And of course, it's like, let's drive into nothing but lots of multicolored paint, and it's it's really cool looking, but it's just sort of like, and how about they just run both of their vehicles right through like vats of blues and reds and yellows, and they're splashing, and there's all these pornographically beautiful shots of exploding pure colors, and I was like, respect, that's cool. It's not funny, but it's cool, and it's like almost like Hodorowski, like
it almost felt like 60s or something to me.
Yes,
like kind of
exactly.
You know,
or like Help, even, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, my second one is how do they deliver? You just watched the cast and crew roll call, you know, that old school roll call thing. Like, you just saw this actor and that actor. Guess what? You tell me, what is each actor doing? What is their behavior?
They're
when
just
they get their
screaming.
moment? They're yelling and screaming. That's right, Brian. They're all going. Yeah, they're all going. Ah! It's like Steven, and it's the end of the movie. It's like, all right, can I get a break? Like, you know,
I don't
Well, the
recommend
end
watching this
credits is
movie with
just-
headphones.
No,
The
but
credits
yeah.
just screaming and explosions. Like that's what the last 3 minutes of the movie is. Like they know what they delivered. Like this is the
Right.
movie.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
They did.
it's a singular film, you know, in that it's a pretty wild thing that it that it exists. But you know, Tom, you mentioned I feel like we have to go back to this for a second.
Yeah,
you mentioned that what the fuck's his name in the submarine with the shitting help me.
Slim
Pickens.
Pickens,
Slim
from Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah. Holy shit, man. That scene, that might be the funniest scene to me. I don't know why, but that's the one that got me. What is that? He's like,
That's not
you
just
ain't-
from the extended cut. That's in the actual.
That's
theatrical cut.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, and
every,
he goes-
every 11 seconds.
he goes-
And Brian. Well, go ahead.
well, he's like, you ain't getting shit out of me.
You ain't getting shit out of me. I've been constipated all week and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
And then ... I've been constipated all morning. That's
I
actually
know.
maybe the funniest timing of that's kind of your punch ups that you wanted there, Tom. You know.
Oh, great. Yes, thanks. But can I just say, I think actually, Brian, to what you were saying earlier about knowing references to, you know, like to himself, to Jaws, but also he's like, oh, I got Slim Pickens. Let's have him rattle off things like
Yes.
in Doctor
Yep.
Strangelove.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
building on his Kubrick obsession.
Exactly.
I
Spielberg
definitely
Kubrick
felt like he
out.
was trying to attach it to.
Of course.
Strangelove,
It's
yeah.
like what
But
happened
it is
after
kind of like
that?
a loving, but it is, I guess, you know what's going on here, I think, is it is sort of postmodern in that, you know, this is baby boomer filmmaking, and it is a time when they're like, maybe they know Doctor Strangelove from like television almost. Like it's what I'm trying to say is like media, like cycle driven. You know what I mean? Like it's referencing back.
Yeah.
And doing reruns of like nostalgic callbacks of Jaws, of Doctor Strangelove. And that was new then. Like directors didn't really do that. And this might be the beginning of that.
Yeah, it's like a fanboy thing, you know, which is
But it's
cool.
the same with putting Kurosawa's guy in it too.
Yeah,
you know?
of course.
It's like,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And
exactly.
then right after that scene, I think it's Toshihiro Mifune comes out, and it's like one of those lines. We've talked about this on the show before, where like somebody says something, but it's really they're referring to the movie itself, you know, line. And I think he says like, "This has not been honorable" or something after that scene.
Steven, really.
Yeah, I know.
Like even the last
Can-
line
can
of the
I-
movie.
Yeah,
Can I bring up one other
Right.
big chunky topic and just let you guys chew on it?
yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm remembering as a kid, it was a lot of hype, and it was sort of like this broken. It was boiled down this much, maybe. Hey, the Jaws guy is working with the Animal House John Belushi Saturday Night Live guy.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of buzz about that, like
Yeah.
wow, John Belushi and the Jaws guy. Now I feel in my notes here, I wrote Belushi underused ? Because in a way, but well, hold on, and then please let's hear it from you guys. He's sort of like he's used, I think, as much in Animal House as he is here. Like you know what I mean? Like he's
Well,
not.
I
Really
have a
character
theory.
either.
I have a
Like
theory.
Screen Time.
I think he was fucking partying and didn't show up. That's what I think. Brian,
You
am I
can
right?
bet on it. So
My
you're saying
sources
like
say
he
yes.
gave him 2 days. They had to like.
I
Get him,
think that he didn't
Fixated
show
for
up
2
and they
days.
just had to shoot let's blow some shit up over here, you know? But Brian,
They
you
also
know,
expanded his role though. Like it's supposed to be like a smaller part, but they're like, holy shit, we got like the biggest.
Okay,
comedy
maybe
actor
that's it
right
then.
now. And they
I still feel like I think maybe I know what you're saying, Evan. It's like he's underused because like he was unreliable. That's my assumption.
Yeah.
But it is. I think it's a disappointment within the film as we're talking here and reflecting. Like that could be iconic. Like as you're saying, Marcus, like who's the lead of this film? Really, the heart of this film could have been Belushi because he is so talented, and it's a pretty fun character.
it is fun.
But yeah,
And
I
I
want more of that. But I feel like maybe he did let them down. And he's like, oh, he disappeared again. You know,
I like that he like.
What do you guys
Like he
think?
comes and goes with chaos. He's sort of like the gopher in Caddyshack. He's just going to show up and cause some problems and then leave
I
the
hear
movie.
you.
He
and
does have
come
a
back
good-
30 minutes later.
He does have
Oh,
a great.
yeah.
He does have a great little moment there when he crashes the plane, and he's trying to get out of the plane, and then the parachute comes out, and he trips, and then the Santa statue falls on him. That's kind of a nice little zippy, funny set piece. I feel like, and he's funny in it too. I think that part works. I also love when the other plane crashes too, and they open the door to the dinosaur and stuff, like the La Brea Tar Pits. You know, that's when the chaos is kind of working really well for me in those two parts.
It's a sort of character. It's like it's a clown. You don't really you're just clowning. You're not really having you're not listening to the other actors. Really, you're not interacting with them so much. You're just like Mr. Bean or something, sort of oblivious to what all the other
that's
characters
true.
are doing.
Well, he's
just clowning around.
It's a Tasmanian devil. It's a cartoon, but again, just on the level of I'm like the viewer of this. I did perk up whenever I saw him. Whenever he did pop up, I was like, now we're cooking. And it does, I guess, as much as anything, what I'm saying is, of course, it's the strengths of Belushi as a performer, but I think it's also because the relatively uninteresting performances in the film. Like everyone else doesn't add up to one Belushi.
We talk about Eddie Deason.
No, not necessarily. I mean the more principal people.
We got to talk about that. I mean, that's
Well, we're good. Let's finish up with just all Deason. The Jaws mayor and Eddie Deason and a fucking ventriloquist dummy.
And
Dude,
yeah.
that shit works. That's fucking.
There was
that
two
slaps.
There was two moments where I was like, okay, now I get why Brian likes this movie. One was there was early on when the soldiers are sort of fighting with each other in that like deli or whatever, and one gets his face pushed slowly into a cake. I was like, okay, Brian's all about that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, bip bip bip. Eddie Deason is in this movie. Okay,
he's in it a lot.
no, he is.
Tons.
But when he first shows up, it's like, what the fuck?
On the making of, you can see Spielberg do a good Deason impersonation, which is pretty great.
No way.
Really?
That's our. You know what that's going to be?
That's our moment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I also illustrate another? I'm going to call this like not funny but cool moment, like where I really like it. Like it is successful. Okay, this is what I'm saying. It's at the end, and Deason goes down with the dummy and the Jaws mayor, and they're submerged.
Oh yeah.
And the first person to come up is the dummy. That's funny.
Yeah, that's
sort of. That's
it
like,
is funny.
What am I trying to say? It's like there's wit.
Yeah.
And it's like he's his consciousness, the dummy, to go like, oh, let's get out of submerging and like, let's raise our heads at us. That's cool. Something's going on there.
Yeah.
I really like Robert Stack in this movie. I think he's the best actor in this movie.
He's
All
grounded.
His stuff of him getting really emotional watching Dumbo and being really adamant, like we are going to fucking watch Dumbo.
It's funny.
I've never seen
and this is
Horsefly.
a year before he was in Airplane. So I wonder if he was in Airplane because of this or what. But he's doing it right because he's playing it like a drama, but doing really silly things. And to me, that's funnier than everybody else.
He's playing Airplane a year before Airplane.
Yep.
I totally agree with you. And that scene with Dumbo, where he's lip syncing to Horsefly, Shoefly. And it's like that's one of the great watching movie scene. That's up there with the Omega Man.
Yes.
And Charlton Heston's watching Woodstock.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's like, no. The Stack kills, and he must have gotten the job for Airplane after seeing that. It's like, get us him. You know, it's almost like maybe he showed like Leslie Nielsen. It's like, this is what we're thinking. Like, and they showed in 1941 how Stack is performing.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know?
I don't know.
Well, you know, like
yeah.
Well, the space between how like realistic, and natural Stack's playing compared to how big Eddie Deason goes. I mean, he's always big, but it's funny to see like that big of a differential between performances in one film.
Belushi too.
Yeah, but Brian,
everybody,
our beloved guest, just give us some more of these set pieces, because you got a good memory for them. This kind of smashed through my skull when I watched
beloved
it.
moment.
It's all blur.
I don't know if it's in the director's cut or not, but there's the scene where the Japanese soldiers are dressed up as Christmas trees.
Yes.
Is that in the version you saw?
I don't know.
And
if
there's these great scenes where it's just them kind of standing still, and Slim Pickens, who runs a Christmas tree farm, is getting confused by these trees moving around.
Yeah.
I think that's really fun.
Yep.
It's a great
Yep.
costumes.
Yep. More.
Then the models in this movie by A.D. Flowers, which were Oscar nominated, by the way. This is an Oscar nominated movie. It was up for 3 Oscars for cinematography, special effects, and maybe sound editing or something.
Wow.
But just all the scenes of the part when it's Belushi and the plane and Tim Matheson and the plane, and they're flying through L.A. and those are all models.
It's incredible.
They look incredible.
It really does.
I've never seen this in the theater, but I bet that that's pretty amazing to see that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I
And
agree.
It looks like $1 million.
It does.
As soon as you see the Ferris wheel on the dock, I'm like, that thing is going to roll into the water.
Yeah.
It looks great. It's weird. I think it's just this movie is such a testament to why CGI sucks. It's like this movie, I know in my head that Ferris wheel is probably this big. It's probably not. It's like the size of a cheese wheel.
Yeah.
But when it starts rolling down the dock into water, it's thrilling. It's kind of
great.
exciting.
Yeah.
The
and
cinematography is really good. It's the same guy who did Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist 2. I mean, I feel like this might be his best looking movie. Actually, he also did Street Fighter from '94. It kind of goes downhill, but this movie looks really good.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing with again, I just love things breaking. The whole
Yes.
thing with Ned Beatty's house just slowly being destroyed.
That is
and that's
cool.
sort of the end of the movie.
That
And they
Rolls
really, I
off
guess,
down the
made a big house and pushed it off a cliff. That's not a miniature.
That is to scale. That's not.
That's
a model.
awesome.
That's
and that's a great set piece. That whole thing of the cannon being in the living room and the house
agreed.
destroying. I like that. That has more wit to it than some of the other sequences, but it just works. It's it's a great, satire, as I keep saying. It does feel like something that could be in a, Mad magazine or a National Lampoon sort of set piece, of some war hungry American guy, and he's got a big gun.
Well, and this is the thing. It's what you're saying is there is a limitation. It's not just a busy explosion of extras running around. It's this contained thing. It's a living room where chaos is happening. And it's a great framing. It's like an American household, and he's putting huge fucking holes through the walls.
It's cool.
And it's going, and it's comically timed pretty well.
It is.
And shout out to the wife in Jaws, whatever her name is,
Lorraine Gary.
That's
Lorraine
right.
fucking Gary
Yep.
in the house, and she gets her moment to have a little cheesecake shot. How about a little Jaws wife cheesecake? I know you want that.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about how all the horniness in this movie was kind of off-putting to me too.
Yeah, Marcus
actually.
hates-
It's like
I
a
did
Tex
appreciate
Avery
that, but-
cartoon.
Yeah, Marcus hates horny.
10-year-old.
Well, there was at the beginning, and I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's in the OG theatrical cut, but there's a scene where Nancy Allen is telling the flyboy I don't like you, and then she finds out he flies planes, and the next thing you know, she's got her shirt unbuttoned, and they're in the cockpit of the plane. And there's a really long, awkward kind of her eyes are closed for some reason. It doesn't tell you why. It doesn't really set it up properly. Her eyes are closed. He's like, okay. And then you lean back. And he's pretending like she's flying or something. And it's all very
And that's
it feels like high school horniness.
It's very Porky's.
It is,
Yes.
but isn't it before? It's before Porky's, right?
Pre-Porky.
It is kind of a pre-sex comedy bit.
Porky's.
Yeah, pre-Porky's. Yeah,
Agreed.
for sure. It does. It's weird like that. But yeah, go ahead.
It's weird.
One theory I have on this movie is that I'm a big SCTV fan.
Ooh, yeah.
And this movie has Joe Flaherty and John Candy in it.
That's right.
And so this movie was made in 1978, released in 79. In 1978 on SCTV, they premiered the Farm Film Report skit, where it's just them obsessed with explosions and things blowing up real good. And I wonder if that skit was inspired by them being on the set of this movie.
Maybe.
I could see that.
Because you're right. Of the cast, it's both those SCTVers.
Yeah.
You know? Like they blow up Meryl Streep.
Right.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Report.
There's so many people in this movie. It is it's great for playing a great film for 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
This would be a cheat film for it.
Yeah, totally. One set piece too. I was like, oh, this is Brian core. Is the Warren Oates sequence?
I want to hear what they sound like. Let me hear them.
Where he's sort of facing off against John Belushi and his guns, and he's yelling at him like, meh, 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 to tell him to test his guns or whatever.
Yep.
That seems like that was a big Brian set piece. I don't know.
Yeah, like fucking Warren Oates is in this movie. Sam Fuller is in this movie.
Yeah.
Like it's just like everybody showed up for this dumb comedy, which is great.
I know. It is so absurd. It is.
Well, I think it's kind of getting like Fellini, like making a movie as throwing a party.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Vinny and Squiggy are in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. But it's kind of like this idea of which I do kind of, I don't know, like when I saw Spielberg talking about just literally, he's like, I made the choice to do it because there was nothing else better to do at the time, and it's just like for him to just want to cause chaos and in a fun sort of way. I can kind of get behind that, like knowing that going in, it does make it go down easier, that he's not trying to do anything more than that. Like there's no pretense,
Like, I'm hearing what you're saying, Evan, because I think his main impetus wasn't like this. I'm going to make the comedy epic of the year.
Yeah, no, it was not.
Like it doesn't seem to be the goal. And
No.
that actually does alleviate sort of expectations.
No, you know what
for
it
me
was,
as well,
right?
as anything.
You know what it was, right? It was a little, you know what I'm saying? So I think that was kind of a little bit where he was at,
Break stuff. He was just having one of those.
Just one of those days, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It reminds me a bit of we love the Doors here on this show too, where it's like that's
film.
another time the film, right?
Yeah.
Not the band. Well, the band, okay,
band
whatever. We love
sucks.
that movie. We hate the movie, but we love it too, right? Yeah, right. The band sucks.
Get the band.
No, but I mean, like just a huge excessive film that does feel singular, where you're kind of like, they're never going to make another movie like that ever again,
No, you're right. No, it's true. No, but that's his Magnolia because he's like the man. He did Platoon. He did Born for the July. It's you only get these movies after one or two monsters, and Hollywood is not smart. And they're just like, he make big movie, he make second big movie, make big movie now, make third big movie now, and it's just like. It's like details, they don't even matter. Just make the big movie again, third time. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because,
maybe they should institute some sort of anti-Magnolia type
clause
thing where, like, where the second or third movie they don't
they
give
skip
them
over it.
a blank check.
Yeah. No, I think it's but there is something, because it's not pretentious, which a lot of these Magnolias can be.
Oh yeah.
Super self-serious, and this isn't. This is the opposite. This is a goof.
Yep.
This is going crazy, and so there is something to be said for that. It's him going crazy, and that makes it a weird, interesting cultural artifact. I mean,
It's also kind of a Christmas movie.
Yeah. And I think
I think it should be maybe supported more as a Christmas movie. I think there's some energy there, and it's not just because it's December, but
no, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
The idea of like, it shouldn't, like, I totally get what Brian's saying. Like, Brian wants destruction too, and I get it. Like, so I think that's what it should be sort of looked at more so than it being like a comedy. This is
like second comedy. Like if you get some laughs, great.
Yeah,
but it's more. Well, it's all actually maybe part of the problem here is just sort of the vernacular of genre titling.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not an action adventure film. It's not a romance.
Right.
It's not a musical. It would have
Right.
been easier maybe if it was a musical with like explosions. That would have maybe, but it's still not quite a musical.
Right.
So it's almost like it's its own genre of
Right.
like a smash 'em up,
Yeah.
It's the cinematic equivalent of going to one of those places where you can like smash stuff, by the hour or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
It doesn't feel out of place with the other 79 comedies either. I think in a way like Rock and Roll High School or something. It feels a little bit like a big budget that kind of comedy movie.
Sure.
Or Get
it's just
Crazy.
zany and get
crazy. Just like
Surf 2.
Surf 2, Eddie Deason, just like big wide set piece filmed in wide widescreen,
wide chaos.
wide chaos from far
It's just
away.
my final notes on for Steven, just 25% less yelling. Because explosions I get, but the yelling, that just kind of wore me down.
That's
That
the
one wore
cocaine.
me
That's the cocaine. That's the
Yeah.
cocaine.
Well, you know what it is? It's the performers are all so like fucking
On
zooted
drugs.
out on
Yeah.
coke that they're just like, "Am I yelling?" Like, no, you're not. Like, you know, it's like Jesus Christ.
They don't
everyone,
have
calm
lines to
down.
deliver, right?
That's not
They
even
don't
not
have
Steven's
lines.
fault. That's I think the performers.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a party. It's a party. Brian, any final sentiments to bring us home on 1941?
Just if you like movies and Spielberg's one of my favorite filmmakers, and I feel like this movie, check it out. Like, you've heard it was bad. Maybe we didn't quite sell it because we're saying it's a comedy that's not funny. But it's like when I watch this movie, like when I watched it for this, every 5 minutes I was like, wow, they did that. Wow, they built that. Wow, they broke that. Like,
absolutely,
you're just
something's going on.
There's
That's
something
our
going on here
takeaway.
that's very exciting. You know,
Yeah.
this is like this
How
is
would you rank it?
Spielberg with the train set crashing him as a kid. You know, in the Fablemans. This is the
that's what I
movie
was thinking.
that he's
Boys
going to
and their
make as a
toys.
grown up.
Boys
How would
and
you
their
rank it? Is it a top 5 Spielberg for you?
Definitely. This is probably number 5.
Number
Done.
five.
There you go.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And then Amistad.
Yeah, right. Color purple.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Break
Well,
it up.
then
break it up.
every a couple minutes, there's a new star to grab your attention. Too,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. It is a wild curio. It's a weird watch. If you haven't done it yet, it's probably the last Spielberg you need to check off your list. But
How about this? The
yeah.
old. There's no movie quite like it.
There isn't. That's very true. It's a
There
product.
is. There really
that's
is.
true.
Really of its time, because things really changed big time in Hollywood following this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like
this
months
was the
later.
This was the last gasp of this kind of excess in filmmaking. But hell yeah, 1941. All right, guys, and we did it. All right.
That is the name of this episode, in defense of 1941.
No, I was
'Cause
going to say.
I'll stand by.
I was
I'll
gonna
stand by that.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say 1941 : cool but not funny, or whatever you said.
I think you guys have walked me through this. The convincing me, it's like change your expectations.
Yes.
and that he wasn't really. I don't want to cheat here and keep going. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like the final word I'm thinking here in the title of
Yeah.
the stupid video.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not even about funny or not funny anymore. I think it's more just like
Yeah.
it's a wild curiosity
Artifact.
with a blank check. Like,
Yeah.
take a look.
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
I agree.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, man.
for having
Good
me.
stuff.
Thank you for bringing
What's
that.
next?
Yeah, we gotta
are we
have
doing
you. We gotta
next?
have you come back for something, of course, in the near future.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it'd be fun to get down with, some Jerry Lewis with you at some point.
Another bite at the
Oh,
cherry
I
apple.
also wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to our cracking up episode. If you'd like to respond, have an official
A rebuttal?
response. Yeah,
I mean,
I don't. I remember it as me just gushing over it for its weird sideways Martian reality. I wasn't digging at the film at all.
yeah. I mean, I'm obsessed with Jerry Lewis. I have been my whole life. You know, I do a Jerry Lewis Club every month. We watch.
Wanna shout that
Jerry
out?
Lewis thing. Yeah, Jerry Lewis Club. If you're ever in Austin and want to partake,
It's
since
IRL.
2010,
Yeah.
we've watched everything he's ever made in order once a month. The movies, TV appearances. We did a group reading of the De La Clown Cried script. We have a board game that he made called Spellbound that we played. So we do in the telethons. We do.
And it's IRL in real
IRL.
life in Austin, Texas.
yeah,
yeah.
In Joe Rogan's.
yeah.
Austin.
It's at the comedy mothership, right?
Yeah, exactly. You open for Tony.
It's a woke free zone when we do.
Oh God!
All right.
That's an R word and N words. I'm kidding.
But no, I
It's
mean,
not
I
like that
love
at all.
cracking up. I love that kind of comedy
here.
where, like, I'm a big Blake Edwards fan.
Yeah.
And I even like the stuff that nobody else likes. Like, I love SOB. I love Man Who Walked Women. I love
Okay,
Blind Date.
Brian, this is the second time SOB's come up.
Yeah.
We were talking with Lars, and I shortlisted. I go, we got to do SOB. So you're coming back, and we'll do SOB because I'm a fan of that one.
I love it.
Is
And
there
I
a
just
way
love-
we could squeeze Brian and Lars on the episode for
That's
SOB?
too many people for an
It's
hour.
a bit, that's a little.
Yeah,
Then,
maybe I
you're
could be
in
sick that week or
1941
something.
territory.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we'll start just shouting the whole time.
Yeah.
But I like comedies that go on like where the scene's going too long a little bit and then it's funny again. It's that black hole.
Yeah.
Like that beginning of Cracking Up where he's slipping and then
Oh,
you're like
yeah.
it's funny and then
are
it's
you
not
kidding?
funny because
It
he's
is
still
good.
doing it, but then it's funny again because he's still doing it. Like I
Yeah.
like that kind of humor.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you're in the right place because how do we end every episode, Evan?
We end it with a beautiful
Moment.
so don't worry. We're gonna get that in here.
You're in
the
good
right
company.
place. You're in good company. You're all right.
Can I shamelessly plug some stuff I have going on?
Please,
while I'm here?
please.
So I have another podcast that I do called The
Oh.
Director's Wall.
2 fucking hours, right?
No, that one goes way too long. I like your thing because it's a limit. I have a podcast called The Director's Wall that I do with AJ Gonzalez, and we go through every single movie by a director. It's
That's cool.
and we've done it for 10 years, and we're only on season 3 because we do everything. So we've done M. Night Shyamalan, which was a terrible idea.
That's a
but
great idea.
Sounds good on paper.
The second season was Francis Ford Coppola, and we did everything,
Ooh,
and that was
nice.
rewarding. That was great.
That's cool.
That's great.
And we're in the middle of wrapping up Sofia Coppola, just because we were just on a
Whoa!
Coppola ride. So next week we're dropping our very Merry Christmas episode. So there's that, and then I made my own crazy plotless comedy feature called Make Popular Movies that you can watch on Tubi,
All right.
and you can watch it on Amazon, and it's half the length of a 1941, so hopefully it's
Extended
easier to
cut.
take.
Not the extended version.
Hell yeah, that's
great.
right. Yeah.
We'll put a link to it, Evan.
Yeah, links for all that shit will be in the description of this video or this podcast where you're listening to it. And if Brian's going to plug, I'm going to plug one last time.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The 1 fucking hour Patreon. Sign up if you haven't. It's the best way to support this show. And if you want to hear the goddamn Beatles bonus episode we're going to do, the Beatles show and tell, is the only way to get it. Patreon.com/1 fucking hour. $5 a month. Same if you want to also become a Momin on the YouTube channel, and you can get access to that too. $5 a month. Anyway, all right, everybody. I think we're ready to get out of here, right?
Yeah, I think we've done our duty.
We didn't talk about next week. We got to mention what we're doing next week. Okay, sorry. One last plug is for what the next 1 fucking hour episode is going to be. This is probably the last ep for the year, you think, right? Does that sound about right?
Maybe one more. Maybe
one
not.
more. I'm not sure. Okay.
We're sunsetting, though, in the year. Yeah.
We are. We're sunsetting. And Tom, are you coming to New York again?
Very much so.
Okay, so there might be an emergency broadcast as well. We don't know.
If something pops up.
You never know. But next week, what are we doing? We're going to get to a title. It lost on our poll that we did last year when we were doing our poll films. So we promised we were going to do it anyway at some point, and I'm very excited about it because it is another kind of wild, crazy 70s bloated comedy of some nature. And I think
it's an all-nighter.
It's an
in the tradition
all-nighter.
of all-nighter films.
It's an all-nighter film. I believe at one point it also held the record for like most footage shot ever for a film or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got some crazy stats. But anyway, we're going back to the world of John Cassavetes. We did the Rosemary's Baby kind of recently, and one of my favorite people, Peter Falk. He's one of my favorites. Take your hand off my hand. So I'm getting very excited about that because we're going to be doing 1 fucking hour on Mikey and Nikki.
Nice.
So
Studio.
that'll be next week.
We're repeating. We're doing more Falk after all the marbles with Lars.
That's
back
right.
in the day.
Right.
Yeah. So we're returning to the
Another
the
guest
Falk
pick
well.
that you loved.
Right. Well,
So-
it's one of those that you didn't like at the beginning, but by the end of the episode, you grew to love.
A little bit. A little
Who are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Right, exactly. So, all right, but now I got to do it official this time. We can't leave you guys without your
Moment.
of Zen. I think we already identified what that's going to be. So stick around for that. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Bryan. Can't wait to have you back on the show. And that was very fun. And we'll talk to you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Steven loved Eddie Deason, as do we. And so we wrote the part for Eddie Deason.
Oh, lockjaw again, huh? Hi, I'm Eddie Deason. Hi.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up. Everything is fucked, everybody sucks. You don't really know why, but you want to justify ripping someone's head off. No human contact, and if you interact, your life is over.